Hey guys, it's Techno Freak here, and welcome to episode 43 of my custom story creation tutorial for Amnesia Rebirth. And today we're going to be talking about camera animations. So we're gonna talk about camera animations, and it's pretty much how you can kind of like. It's not really a cutscene in the sense that you're controlling the player. For example, let's say your level starts and you want to do like kind of like a pan around the area just to kind of see what you're looking at. Or let's say something happens in your custom story and you kind of want to have like a cutscene where you like zoom in. Like let's say you're looking into the distance and you see like a bridge break or something like that. You can actually like take the camera and put it up against this. You can kind of see it up close, kind of create a cutscene, but not necessarily one generated from the player, more just wherever you want it. You can actually control wherever you want it. So it's actually fairly simple. I'll talk about some additional details to help refine stuff regarding it, but it's fairly simple and it's pretty useful. And once you guys learn it, I'm sure you guys will want to try and find the place for it everywhere in your level. So let's go ahead and get started. So first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and go to areas here, and we want to find the area called camera animation. So it's going to be with the C's right here, camera animation. And then what you're going to do is you're going to find where we're going to put this. So what I'm thinking is my level starts right here in the beginning here. And what I want to do is I kind of want to do a camera animation when the that kind of starts right here and just kind of moves its way over here and turns and then comes over here where the player is. I'm gonna probably run it from the trigger area right here. That way it doesn't start from the very beginning. I'm here creating a whole bunch of areas panning around here, but yeah, we're gonna trigger it from the trigger area, and I'll explain that in a moment here. So let's go ahead and just clear those. So let's go ahead and start talking about how we're gonna do this. So we're gonna put it right here first, and then we're gonna put another one right here, and then another one right here where we want it to finish. So we're gonna be putting 3 camera animation areas down. So we're gonna go ahead and select it. We're gonna go ahead and click right here first. And then when we put it down, it's gonna have like this rectangular shape. You can think of it kind of like a camera or something. And pretty much this blue line that you see in here, let me see if I can angle it a little better. This blue line right here is the direction that the camera is gonna be facing when you start the camera animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and rotate this to the right here. And we probably want this a little higher than this. So we're going to lift this up here. Let's put it kind of like, yeah, that right there is good. We'll put it right there. And then what we're going to do now, take note of the name. It's called camera animation _1. When you place all of these, make sure that they all have the same naming scheme. It's actually very important when we actually execute it. If like you want to call it like intro animation or something like that, like intro animation, call it that, and then put _1. And then when you duplicate it, when you hit Control D here to duplicate it, it'll be called intro animation 2. And if you make another one, it'll be intro animation 3 or whatnot. So just keep that in mind. We're gonna you know what, let's say let's just leave it like this, intro animation. That's fine. So we'll leave it as that, intro animation. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and duplicate it now. So we want to move the camera in a certain direction, kind of pan it through the level. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and duplicate this here. So now it's called intro animation 2. Remember, this is very important to keep this naming scheme consistent, or else you might not have working camera. So make sure that you keep that correct. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring it all the way over here, and we're going to put it maybe right there. Yeah, right there is good enough. So we have the area right here, the camera animation area right here, and what it's going to do is pointing in this direction, and we want it to move from here to here, and then ultimately end right here. So let's go ahead and duplicate the second one here. And we'll go ahead and move it. We'll twist it here, aim it the right way. And what I'm going to do is going to put it right where the player spawns. So we're going to go ahead and get this right in here, right up in here. I believe the spawn area is the bigger one, right? Yep. So we'll put it right there. Maybe, yeah, right there is fine. We'll move it over a little bit to the left. We'll use we'll disable magnet here. We'll put it more centered there. So that's where we want it to end. And this is where the player will regain control. The player will regain control right here. So so we have our layout out. Now let's kind of talk about some of the options here. Or you know what? Before we even start talking about the options, why don't we run it in our game? Just kind of see what it's going to look like. So let's go ahead and go over to our script file, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what all these values and buttons do over here. We will play around with a few of these ones, the ones I feel are more important. So let's go ahead and go to our script file. And what we're going to do is we're going to run it from our trigger area here. Just to be a little bit easier to demonstrate the code here. So we have a trigger area right here called, we've been using it all series long, called trigger_1. And when the player interacts with this trigger area, collides with it, we run the function onCollide player trigger1, which is in our script file right here, onCollide player trigger1. And what we do is we check if all state equals 1. And if it's equal to 1, that means that the player entered the area. So then we execute some code here. Right now, all we have it is just enabling the player's running. And we have it setting the player's ability to run to be true. And then we return false, meaning that we don't want this collision to happen again. We only want it to happen once. Otherwise, if all state is equal to anything else, we don't want to do anything when the player leaves the area, because if all state is not equal to 1, then that means that the player is leaving the area. In that case, we don't really want to do anything with that, so we're just going to return false here. And that's that's what's going on here. We'll go ahead and clear this here, just to have like a cleaner working area here. And what we're going to do here, very simple, we're going to type in camera animation. And we're going to say _begin. We'll talk about some of the other functions here as well. We'll glaze past those in a moment. But we want camera animation begin. And we're going to go ahead and put parentheses. And we're going to put colon here. And let me actually bring this down here. Just we got a bigger view here of the screen here. So now what we're going to do in here, we're going to need to provide 3 values here. First is going to be the name of the camera animation. So what this is actually going to be is going to be the first part of the name of your camera animation nodes. So if we go over back to the level editor here, and we click on this one, this is intro animation _2. And obviously this is 3, and over there is 1. What we want is just this beginning part. We don't want to specify 1, we don't want to specify 2, we just want to specify intro animation. Just that one beginning part right there, intro animation. And it will automatically, in order, combine the nodes. So it'll know that this one, it'll know by default that intro animation 1 is the first one, intro animation 2 is the next one, just based on that number. So it's important to keep the numbers increasing in the direction you want to go. You can go backwards, but I'd be careful with placing cameras all over the place and then forgetting the number or the numbers that they are. Make sure if I'm making the animation that's just going to go straight down this hallway, make a turn here, and then kind of look in the direction that the player is going to look. Because that's how I'm doing, I'm putting 1, 2, and 3 in the exact same order that I want the animation to play out. So with that, again, just put in this beginning part right here, intro animation. I'll go ahead and just copy that right there, and we will go ahead and paste it in our script file right here. So intro animation. Next, this is a callback for interactions. So if a player interacts with something during the camera cutscene, the camera animation, you can actually run any code you want. We'll talk about this at the end of the episode. We'll make a mention to it, but right now we're just gonna skip it. So what we're gonna do is just leave it blank here, and again we're gonna come back to it. We'll come back to it at the end. And then lastly is whether or not you want the animation to end once you reach the last node. So that means that the player will regain control at the very end. So if that is what you want, then you go ahead and say true here. If you don't want the player to regain control, you're going to go ahead and put false here. And unless you run, I'll show you the next command here. Unless you run camera animation _end, it won't end. So if you put false here, just remember you will have to end it yourself by running camera animation end. Otherwise, if you put true here, once it reaches the final node in the series of nodes that you put down in the level, it will just automatically end and you'll be standing exactly where you are. So just keep that in mind. So we'll go ahead and comment this out just so you have it on screen if you need to copy it. But just note that it will end because we set this to be true, and once it reaches the last node. So now let's go ahead and start it up, and let's kind of see what behavior we're gonna get. By default, it does not auto zoom through the nodes. You actually have to specify that. So what we're going to do is just kind of show you what it looks like right now with no modifications done to anything. And then we'll go ahead and start tweaking some of the numbers, jump in and out, and kind of show you guys what exactly the numbers do and the values do when you change them and stuff. Alright, so here we are in our level now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and step through, and yeah, we kind of zoom there. Let me restart here just because kind of moved a little quickly there. So we're gonna step in our trigger area right here, and when we do that, we're gonna go ahead and get automatically teleported to that first camera node. So let's go ahead and do that. I go ahead and step through, and here we are at our first camera node. Notice we can look around, and notice we're not moving or anything like that. That's because we don't have auto move enabled here. So you can, by default, you can actually control the camera here. You see that? So I'm just hitting W and S on my keyboard, forward and backwards, and I'm kind of moving through the animation. So we'll go ahead and do it. We'll keep moving, and then we'll end right here. And we'll reach the last node. Of course, we take control. Let's just do that one more time. I'll do it all in one shot here. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna hold W here, and boom, we're done. So that's just with manual control. But now let's say we're doing, like, you know, the player's witnessing something. We don't really want to have the player control that. So that's pretty simple what we could do. So let's go ahead and go back to our custom story level editor here. And what we're gonna do is gonna click on this one here. And what we're going to do is we're going to toggle on auto movement. So we're going to hit 1 here for auto movement. If you put -0.5, it moves backwards at half speed. You can see if you hover over this, it tells you exactly what it does. So you can put whatever values you want. 1 is for forward movement at the default speed. And now let's go ahead and just open it up, restart it, kind of see what happens now. So I'm opening up the game here. I'm restarting it, and we're gonna go ahead and walk through this one more time now. Let's go ahead and go here, and as you can see, it auto moved us to the second node. Of course, we didn't put auto move on the second node, so this one has control. And even though it was auto move on, we still do have control, even though it's auto moving us. Let me see if I can show you guys that. We'll restart here one more time, and we'll go right here, and we'll step right here, and you can see I can actually control or move faster, whatever. Because I haven't disabled the player's ability to interact with it. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna go back, and we're gonna mess around with that some more now. So next is the player's interaction. So if we want to disable that, we're gonna go ahead and uncheck interactive movement here. It will ignore input, and while we're at it here as well, we'll go ahead and go to this one. We'll enable auto move here. And we'll do the same thing over here. We'll disable interactive movement for this node as well. So we have to replicate these between the nodes that you use. So try not to use so many nodes unless you want really refined movements through this here. But we're just straight shotting it to the end here. So we really don't care. So we're not changing too many nodes here. So let's go ahead and open up our game again. And we'll restart here again. And we'll have a look at it now. So let's go ahead and turn the corner here and step in here. So now we got auto move on, and I actually could not control it. It would not let me control it. But now, if you notice, it's moving way too fast. So let's slow it down now. So let's go back to the level editor now. And now, what you want to change is forward time. When we're moving forward, this is how much time it's going to take to get to the next node. So clearly 1 second from this node to this one is just zipping right across, way too fast. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this to 5. So between node 1 here and in node 2 here, it's gonna take 5 seconds to get there. That's how you control kind of the speed of the camera. Next is we're gonna have to change it for this one as well here from 2 to 3. we have to change the forward time here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and let's do 3 seconds from here to this one here. I think that's going to work. So let's go ahead and save it up. And let's go ahead and open up our level editor here. And now let's go ahead and walk through again. And let's see what happens now. So here we go. Nice and slow. Again, I can't control anything anymore. But you notice I can look around here. I do have control of my pitch and my yaw here. Now I'm the player again. So I did have control. So now how do we disable that? So we can go ahead and open up the level editor again. And we're going to go ahead and go over to this node here. And we're going to do look speed multiplier. This is how fast the player can look around. It's as simple as just setting this to 0. Now the speed at which the player can look around is 0 because we multiplied it by 0. That's the multiplier. So we can do the same thing over here. We'll set this to 0 and we'll save it up. And now let's go ahead and check it out now. So we'll hit F5 here to restart our game again. And now let's check it out again. Let's step through our trigger area. And there's our cutscene. And we're gonna slow down here, and then we'll zoom in around here. So that's a pretty good one. I probably want to raise this camera a little high. It's a little low. You can see I kind of jump up out of the ground when that happens. But really smooth, really clean. I love that transition there. So of course you can implement this in your levels however you want. Now let's just talk about a few of the other values that we have here, just to kind of cover them so you know what they do. So here we got the max yaw and the max pitch. So yaw is the angle left and right that the max left and right angle that the player can look around at. Pitch is the up and down angle, the max up and down angle that the player can look around. So if you did want to allow the player to look around, you set this look speed multiplier to be whatever you want. Of course, if you want them to look around a little slower, put this at like 0.5 or whatever you think is best. And then you can specify what angle you want the player to look at. Remember, yaw is left and right, pitch is like up and down. So that's how you control those. Backwards time, if you're moving the camera backwards, you can specify how much time it goes in reverse. Right now we're not going to be going backwards, so we don't really care, and this is the first node anyway, so we can't go backwards from here. But if, let's say, we did want to like bring it back, bring the camera backwards from this second node, we can specify like a backwards time here, and that'll specify how much time it takes to reverse back to this first one in case you wanted a different time for going backwards. Look, move distance, again, you can hover over these to see what they are, or auto movement. I already explained this one. This is the auto movement. Look, move distance the player can move by looking towards the next node. So this is how much the player can actually move when they're controlling node, when they have manual control over it based on where they're looking at, if they're looking at the node or not. Look, move, max angle, same thing, but with angle based on the next node. Interactive movement, we talked about that one, and put ignored if you have this unchecked. Speed fading, if true, movement speed will interpolate between the one and the next. Note that means that the forward and back times will not be exact. So this pretty much just seems to be the speed when you're going into one node or coming out of one node, and you can change, and it could change the speed when it comes into the node and stuff. So you can play around with that however you want. Next, crouch on exit, pretty simple. When the node is over, when you get out of the node and the animation ends, should the player be crouching? In its camera, if true, the node is moved and rotated to match the rotation of the player's camera. So if you start the camera animation, this will if you have this toggle, it will use the player's current angle that they're looking at instead of just whatever the camera is. And then use player eye line. So if you will check this, the player's eye line will be at the level of this camera right here. So exactly what the player is looking at would be right on this camera's position here, rather than putting like the whole body here and it being a little higher than normal. Because I believe the player's head is like kind of up here when you do these camera animations, and the center of the player's body is right here. If you toggle that, the player's eyes will be exactly right here. And then lastly, now let's talk about this callback function. So when you reach the node, or when the node is passed, you can go ahead and execute a callback function in your script to execute something. So let's actually show you guys how we're going to do that, so you guys know how to do that. So we'll do it for this one here. So we're going to come in on this node from over here, and when we pass this node, we want to go ahead and execute some code. Let's say we'll just print out a message saying that we passed the node, just so we can see it working. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in a callback function down here for that. What I'm going to name it, I don't think there's a naming convention for this that the developers use that I know of. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to kind of follow their same style. So I'm going to say on past camera node underscore, and then I'll put the name of the intro animation here. You can generate a name down here. Actually, we'll see what that generates. I'm actually not sure what that generates. So we're gonna say intro animation 2 here. We'll hit generate camera node pass. So it kind of does the same thing that the trigger function does. It puts the name first and then camera node passed. But we'll keep our version that we're going to use here. So we'll paste that in, and we'll say on camera node, on past camera node, and then the name of the node that we pass intro animation to. But of course, you can use whatever you want. You can literally just write like node or something like that, and that works too. But I'm just going to name it properly so that it's organized well in our code. So now that it's written out, what we can easily do, I'm going to go ahead and save first. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit copy here. So this is going to copy the whole function for us that we can paste into our script file. So we'll go ahead and open our CodeLight application here. And what we're going to do, we'll put it right under the onCollide player trigger 1 here. We want it outside of any functions here, so we'll put it right here. And what we're going to do is just organize this here. We'll hit tab here just to kind of clean this up here. And you can see bool intro on intro. It looks like I got a typo here actually. Intro A on. I think I left part of the. I think I left part of the generated thing here. So let me go back here. Yeah, intro A. So on past camera node. So we'll go ahead and make sure that's right there. So on past camera node intro animation 2. And that's what we should have here, on past camera node intro animation 2. Then it gives you some values we can use, a direction or an entity, and then you can go ahead and return true here if you don't want this callback to be removed. If you want this callback to only run once, you want to go ahead and set this to false, which is what we're going to do here. But if you set it to true, the callback won't be removed. So if you play it the same, if you pass the same node again, this will go ahead and run again. So you can go ahead and control that however you want. But again, we don't want to keep this function here. So what we're going to do is we're going to return false, and we don't want it. We only want it to run once. So false is what we want here. And all we want to do is just print out a message. So we're going to say clux underscore add debug message to print out a debug message. And what I'm going to print in the name of the node we pass. So we're going to say as entity, because this is the name of the node. We're going to say plus, and then we're going to go ahead and just write something here like node passed. So it's going to be the name of the node we just passed, and then it's going to combine it with node passed. So we should see we should see intro animation 2 node passed is what should come up here. And if you really want to know the direction, you can go ahead and take that direction and use it for whatever you need. If you need it for anything, or if you want to check something, if direction equals whatever or something like that, you can go ahead and use that for whatever you need. We are just interested in this message right here, so we'll go ahead and save this up, and let's go ahead and test it out, see what it does. So we'll go ahead and reset our game here again. We'll go ahead and step through our trigger area again, and here we go. So just look at the bottom left, you'll see it pop up when we pass this node. Boom, we passed it. You can see it says intro animation 2 node passed. So if you had any code that you wanted to run after you reach a certain point, this is definitely useful. Actually, very useful, very important to know, because like, let's say you're zooming through the level and you want like planks to fall or like something to catch fire while you're going through the animation. As soon as you hit that specific node that you want it to happen at, you can go ahead and play the fire igniting or the planks falling, whatever it is. So definitely a good one to know. And that's how you do it. And you can go ahead and, you know, set this to true if it's something you need to happen multiple times, or it's a camera animation you're going to run multiple times. So now that we got that done, let's go ahead and talk about the crosshair. Notice that when we're doing these animations, we'll go ahead and hit F5 here to restart again. We have that little dot crosshair in the center of the screen, and if we start the animation, you can see it's still on the screen right there. Obviously we don't want that when we're doing these animations. That's kind of annoying. So what we can do is just run a quick line here right above camera animation begin here. We're going to say player underscore show crosshair icons, and what we want to do is just simply put false, and we don't need to put anything else, just false. We don't want the icons to show, so we're going to go ahead and try it again. So put F5 here in our game. We'll step to the area, and now that little dot that you can see right there, it's going to disappear once we step through, and you can see it's gone, and our cutscene is now very clean, very smooth. We don't got to worry about the crosshair being in the cutscene or anything like that, in the camera cutscene. So that's that. So next, now we're going to talk about some of the functions that are available here. A majority of these are pretty simple. Are pretty simple, and we don't really need to talk about. But we'll go ahead and just kind of mention them. So we're going to say animation. So you can see these: camera animation node, fade auto move, get auto move, get back speed, get back time, get callback function, get crouch when exit. So there's a bunch of getter functions that gets you whatever the values are set to. You know, has back movement, set auto move, set callback function, set into camera, and if you notice, all of these functions that are here are the same ones that you see in the level editor here. So all of these here, forward time, backward time, auto movement, interactive movement, all of these here, you can also toggle and change from the script here. So if you needed to change any of these after the fact, you want to change what the nodes do after the fact, here's where you do it. Camera and animation node, specify the specific area node. If you had to specify specifically the node, so if it's specifically like 2, you want to make sure it's 2 if you run that function. But yeah, those let you change those. Other than that, there's only actually one other function that's not related to the nodes that that's on the level editor, and that is this one right here: camera animation set attached entity. So this one is actually it's actually a very interesting one, and it definitely has its uses. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and go ahead and click this one. Actually, no, before we even move on to this attached entity thing here, we're going to comment this out for a second. I do have to mention this callback right here. I haven't covered it yet. So let's talk about that before we move on to the attached entity here. So for the camera animation beginning, we can provide in here a callback to use when an entity is interacted with in the cutscene. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just kind of demonstrate to you guys how that works. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give it a name. We're going to say on camera interaction. I'm going to say underscore camera animation. Or you know what, we'll name it whatever this is here. So we'll change this last part to match that here, and this could be whatever you want. This is a function you're calling. You can call this anything you want, but to keep it consistent, we're going to say on camera interaction and then the name that it belongs to, the camera animation it belongs to, which is intro animation here. And now we're going to write a function here to use this callback in, and so what we're going to say is void on, and then this is going to be the name of this function. So I'm just going to copy this here. We'll bring it back and we'll just paste it right here. Intro animation, and then we're going to say parentheses, and we're going to say we'll put a curly brace here and we'll open it up and everything. And we're going to say in here is const, and we're going to say t string, and we're going to say and in as entity. So it's literally this one that's right here, but just this part right here. And pretty much what this is the entity that the player interacted with during this camera, when he interacted with an object during the camera cutscene, the camera animation. So it'll make sense in a moment. What we're going to do here is we're just going to simply print out that entity here. So we're going to say clux add debug message, and what we're going to do is we're going to say as entity, and we'll just say plus print. We'll do our quotation marks, and we're going to say we're just going to say. Well, actually, we'll put this in the beginning. We'll say we're going to say player interacted with, and we're going to go ahead space and plus right here. And we'll put our semicolon at the end right here. So we're going to say player interacted with, and then whatever he interacted with when the callback is called, which is when the player interacts with something. So the way this works, we're going to go ahead and open up the level editor here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and enable the interactive movement again, and we'll enable the look speed multiplier again. So we'll allow the players to look around, and we'll allow the player to move the camera by themselves. We'll also turn off auto movement right here, and we'll save that. And now that we have that, let's go ahead and go into our game now and kind of see what that code does. So we're going to hit F5 to restart. And we're going to go ahead and enter our area here. So here we are again. We have control now. We can move and everything. It's slower now because we lowered the time. Now what we're going to do, this light up here you can normally grab and interact with. What we're going to do is going to go right up to it in the camera and the actual like camera and everything. And we're going to click it. And you can see at the bottom left, player interacted with Arab lamp oil hanging 01, because that's the name of that lamp. So you can actually interact with objects in here. I don't think the player can actually grab it. Like normally we'd be able to like grab it or try to light it up or whatever, but we can't actually do that. So you can actually detect when the player clicks on anything during the animation here, the camera animation. So it would actually let you set up some pretty cool puzzles, like zoom in puzzles and stuff like that, when you're designing your custom story. Note that this doesn't really work well with things like doors and stuff like that. Works well with like bottles and stuff like that, like common entities and stuff like that. But like if we try it on the door here, like I'll grab it and you can see like we get snapped out and we get an error. So things like doors don't work very well with it. Things like bottles and stuff would work pretty well, or things like the lamp oil hanger, like just regular entities, nothing like doors or anything like that. They should work fine. So that's how you use that. That's how you do the camera interactions. Pretty useful. Lets you set up some pretty cool puzzles during the cutscenes and stuff like that. The camera cutscenes, camera animations. With that now, let's talk about the last thing we're going to talk about today, and it's going to be the attached entity. So you can attach an entity to the camera that's being panned around. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and uncomment here our code that we had for this camera animation set attached entity. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and place down an entity over here. We're going to go ahead and go to entities, and let's just do this barricade plank right here. We'll put it right here, and we'll like lift it up, I guess, and put it right in front of the camera here. It's actually going to teleport this directly to the camera right here. So we might not even see it because it's probably going to be like centered with the camera. So we'll put that down there, and then what we're going to do now is give it a name. Call it something simple so it's easier for us. Let's just call it plank. We'll go ahead and hit save here. We'll just call it plank, and then we'll go ahead and go back to our CodeLight application. So now what we're going to do is, first thing is specify the name of the entity we want to attach to the camera. So we're going to say plank. We're going to say comma space. Now we have 3 values here. Let me pull out the function here as well, just so we know what it is. And the first one is yaw, pitch, and the second one is pitch, and the third one is roll. And this is whether or not you want to align the entity to the camera's yaw, to the camera's pitch, and to the camera's roll. If you want it to just stay exactly the way it is, that you see it, the way that you see it, that you place it on the level and everything, you go ahead and set these all to false. We're going to go ahead and set them all to false. For demonstration purposes, it's not going to matter. We're probably not even going to see the object because it's probably not large enough. But you'll see it move with us at the end. So we're going to go ahead and put false for all of these. We'll go ahead and save it up. And now let's go ahead and open up our our game, and let's go ahead and refresh and test it out now. So we're gonna go ahead and go here, and we're gonna step in. You can see the plank is gone. The plank is probably like right behind the camera here. We can't really see it. We're gonna move through here and go to the very end here. So we'll go ahead and move, and we'll get to the end here. And then if we look behind us, there's the plank. It was right behind us, right on the camera. Couldn't really see it. Something bigger you'll probably see. Yep, that's the plank. So we attached it to the player, and we moved it through with the camera and everything. So pretty cool. Might be useful to you in some scenario. I don't think lights work or particles work or anything like that. I'm pretty sure it's just strictly entities, but you can feel free to try and see if they work. And then if you wanted to detach it like at some point before the end of the animation, before the end of the camera animation, you can do that. You can say camera animation underscore and you do remove attached entities. So you just do this. You don't gotta put any values in here. If you want to stop it at node, like you can take this, you can cut it, and you can put it like right here when we pass node 2. You paste it right here, for example. And once we reach node 2, it'll detach that plank from the camera, and the plank will just drop down right exactly where it is. So could be useful for whatever you want. Pretty fun stuff though, to mess around with if you wanted to do something with it. So and with that, guys, that pretty much does it. That pretty much does it for the episode. That's pretty much everything related to camera animations there. Feel free to play that however you want. A good note though, if you run the camera animations like right off of the start of the level, sometimes the player isn't like completely loaded in, so you'll see like the players like T-posing or something like that when you run it on setup or on start. So best thing to do is if you want to run it from the very beginning of the level, let the player spawn in. Let the player spawn in first where they normally spawn in, and you could put like a trigger area right where the player spawns in. So same way I did it here, we had like a trigger area, but instead you could have like a trigger area. Let's see where the trigger area here is. Trigger. And you can put it right at the start here. So you can put it like right at the start here, and pretty much as soon as the player loads in here at spawn, you can go ahead and just start the animation rather than running it from on start or on setup, because the player won't load in properly all the way, and you might get some funkiness, and you'll see the player T-posing or something. So if you're gonna run it from the very beginning of the level, again, surround this in a trigger area. And pretty much do exactly what I did in today's episode. From the trigger area, you can trigger the animation and stuff like that. And as soon as the player spawns in at the very beginning, he will go ahead and get zapped over to the beginning. And you can always like combine this with effects to like fade in or put motion blur or something like that. All of that does still apply through the camera animation, so you can also do that. Because essentially, what you're doing when you're running these is you're moving you're moving the player's camera over here, and you're also moving their body over here, but you're disabling their body as well, so they can't see their own body and stuff. So that's pretty much what's happening there. You're actually just pulling the player over here, moving them through here, and then you just get zapped at the end, dropped at the end wherever you were. So with that, guys, that'll do it for the episode. Definitely a fun one. Definitely start adding those to your level. Put like an intro cutscene when the game starts up, or something, when your custom story starts up, just to kind of pan around, especially if you got like a castle or something. Be really cool to put in at the beginning of your levels. So with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about all of this, or what you want to see. Leave a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. So have a good one, guys. Bye.